flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, approval of board meeting agenda postings. Madam Clerk.
Chairman Travis Manning and trustees, I request the approval of the Board of Trustees special board meeting and executive session agenda postings for Monday, April 28th, 2025. The agenda was posted on Friday, April 25th, 2025 at 5:30 p.m. The agenda was posted at the following locations: the Caldwell School District website and the Caldwell District office.
Okay, I'll take a motion to approve the agenda postings.
Mr. Manning, I'd like to make a motion to receive the agenda notice posting for the Monday, April 28th, 2025.
Okay, motion by trustee Godina. Do we have a second?
Second.
Trustee Robertson, any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? Motion carries. Okay. Tonight we are at Syringa Middle School, and we have the opportunity to take a tour of Syringa Middle School and see some of the great things that are happening and some of the recent projects that have occurred as they, continue to maintain our schools over time. And so we're grateful for the maintenance staff and the principal and her staff for all the work they do here at Syringa Middle School. And that being said, our first item on our our special meeting agenda is Ms. Elshide, principal of Syringa Middle School.
Chairman Manning and trustee, Dr. French and the rest of the board tonight. We thought, since this has been such a year of change for us with the merging of the schools, we just thought we would kind of give you guys an overview and an update of some of the highlights from our year. Anyway. If I can get my text to work. Is it working? Awesome. Down to go. Yep. So this year was a year of really big change for us, growth, where we brought both schools together to have all 7th and 8th graders here at Syringa Middle School. We are really excited about the foundation and how we're able to bridge the programs and prepare students for high school in their 7th and 8th grade year. We feel really proud that this year we were able to not only maintain the things that we've been doing to support students in all areas, to support the whole child, not just academics, but clubs, athletics, our leadership programs. We had a lot of people who worked really hard this year on community partnerships and field trip grants and things to make all the things that we've been doing continue and growing here at Syringa. So we were going to highlight a few of those for you. Without B teams this year, we were still able to make sports happen. We had a really exciting year. We had all of our coaches agreed to do a practice squad this year. Instead of going to traveling to games, they worked really hard to set up practices and scrimmage games with Homedale and some other places so that our kids could continue growing their skills and staying involved in athletics, even though we really weren't fully staffed to have a full program, but we made it work. Our track and field. So track and field is now bridging with the high school, and a lot of our 8th graders are attending high school practices over there and being coached. One of our coaches is also coaching over there. They are getting some really specific skills training in those events over at the high school. So that's been kind of exciting. And some of our big highlights, I'm going to have Mitch talk about our track stars this year.
Okay, so we did want to brag a little bit of a few of our kids because we're having some track athletes that are having pretty exceptional years. So the first one, Isaac, one of our 8th graders. He's currently in a really tight battle with his discus throwing. He's 2nd in Idaho. The other kid happens to be from CUNA, and actually, I believe at our last meet, it was the top 3 throwers in the state were all within about a foot or 2 of each other. So they'll be battling it out the rest of the season. In the 100-meter hurdles, he's exceptional. He's first in the state, and he's actually ranked sixth in the country as far as we can tell on athletic.net. So he's an eighth grader. And so he's sixth in the country for middle schoolers at the 100-meter hurdles right now. And then high jump, which I don't believe is something he's done more than
It's like.
just this year,
Yeah.
first year doing it. And
did one
he's,
practice
yep.
before his first meet.
Yep, so he's already first in our district at the high jump as well without really having competed that before. So they start districts, their meet starts tomorrow. So, and then I'll get to state here in a minute, but Sweden, one of our seventh graders, she is first in Idaho in the 100-meter. She is first in the district and fourth in Idaho in the 200-meter, and also first in her district in the 400-meter as a seventh grader. And she's improved by a lot. I mean, she was competing in her district placing last year as a sixth grader. So we're excited to see what she does the rest of this year and next year. And then I wanted to also highlight Ruben, another one of our eighth graders. He's in a pretty tight battle that all those top 5 or 6 in the district for the 400 meters, they beat each other every meet. So he's doing very well. His time right now, anything sub 60 in a middle school runner is really good for that 400-meter race. My coaches let me know that 25 of our kids qualified for the YMCA state meet that'll be happening after the season concludes. So that's really exciting.
So we started, Mr. Maxon, we started robotics last year. A couple summers ago, we got some grants during our summer school program for 3D printers, and it kind of grew from there. I think that's how it started, Chad. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Since 2014.
Oh, my bad. Oopsie, last year.
So the
Um,
parents are new.
But the partnership and the robots and a lot of the equipment is really new through a partnership with Caldwell High School. So Mr. Maxton partners with Caldwell High School, and they have built the 2 new robots this year. Did they start those last year?
No,
These are brand new from this year.
every year it's new.
They went to a lot more competitions this year. And the kids are really, really involved in it. They've spent all year raising money, selling snacks to be able to get new parts and build their robots and take those to compete. Anything you would add?
Is it sciencey things now?
Sciencey things, that's you.
Sciencey things now. Sciencey things. Dr. Farrow couldn't be here tonight to share on this, so I get to, which is awesome because I get to go on these field trips a lot too, so I'm excited. So every year we do quite a few different science hands-on in the field project type learning. So from the pictures that you can see here, this is from the 7th graders, go out to Deer Flat and do a lot of water quality testing, which ties into some other science fair things that they're going to be doing, completing by this week as well. This picture, as well as the ones on the next slide, if you want to click, are from our Explore Oregon trip that we put together. Some of you that might remember, we used to take a trip to Yellowstone every year to do a science trip. And then once COVID hit and we couldn't go for a year or two, we pivoted and created our own, where we take 40 8th graders to the Oregon coast and do everything from analyzing biodiversity in tidal pools to catching a few crabs and learning about the different types that you can catch over there, and take them to the aquarium, the science center, take them up to Tillamook. They can tour the cheese factory up there. It is a couple of the other people in the room here went on that trip as well as chaperones, and it is 4 days that are very hectic. Sleeping in yurts with middle schoolers that you have to remind to shower while they're on a field trip. But it's always one of my favorite parts of the year, and the kids get a ton out of it.
We got a lot of great feedback. Dr. Farrell was telling Dr. French and I that a lot of the feedback from the people they partnered with for these really talked very highly and praised our kids for their manners and how well behaved they were, how much they knew about the science content before they were out exploring, and just how engaged they were in all of the activities. So it was really good to get that feedback when they came back from everyone, from the bus drivers to the restaurants to the science departments that worked with them both at Deer Flats and in Oregon.
Yes, we just,
Yeah.
yeah, we just got back.
Yeah,
Yeah,
just got
Mo's
back.
opens up to 50 people to bombard them on a Friday night and it's always a good time.
Mr. Dame, did you go on any early morning runs?
Well, I
On
did
the
not
beach?
run this time.
Okay.
I've been slacking on that, but, yes, we did get them out on the beach at, by 5:15 every morning to those that wanted to run or walk the beach first thing in the morning.
Yeah, it's great. The kids always, they really enjoy that. They look forward to that. And it's something we're really proud of being able to do is send them to get all that hands-on learning. Okay, a couple of other things that we were really proud of this year is we did a ton of community outreach. Christy Rudan, our instructional coach, she is like the grant guru. If there's a grant out there, she will grab it for us. And so she has been able to get grants for several things. One of them was our Christmas wish list project that we did this year. And I know Jessica came during part of that. We were able to deliver to, I think, I want to say it was like 200 families maybe that we delivered, I think it was over 250 food boxes. They got a couple $100s worth of food to do them over the holiday break, so that they would have snacks and food to sustain their families. And then they all got to make a wish list item. The interesting thing for us is always that the kids don't ask for things for themselves. They ask for things for their parents. They ask for dad to get a job. They ask for a coat because they are sharing a coat with dad and he works outside. And so our partner this year, it was an anonymous donor. We weren't allowed to know who. But for every wish that a child asked for someone else, it was granted. And then in addition, they were also given gifts for the children. Because the donor really appreciated the heart that the kids had for asking for others. And so it was time consuming and a lot of work, and a lot of us delivered after school hours and all the things, but it was probably the highlight of the year for a lot of us. And then in the middle, Idaho Lottery actually chose one of Christie's grants that was, normally they make grants for students and for student materials. Christie wrote a grant for our teachers this year for them to get classroom supplies. So fidget stools, markers, whiteboard sets for their classrooms, all kinds of materials. So they granted us, it was quite a big, I want to say it was over $7,785 from the Idaho Lottery. And then they came out and filmed that and sent all the supplies that the teachers had put on their wish list. So that was a lot of fun to be able to give back. And then we switched up our family events this year a little bit. In the fall, typically we've gone out and done a couple of family nights out in parks. We switched that up a little bit this year. Our literacy night, we called it Rev Up Your Reading, and we had a car show. We weren't sure. It was our first car show. We weren't sure how the community and if people would attend, and it was so much fun. It was so much fun to watch the children and the families bring their cars and line them up, and at dark rev them up and turn all the lights on, and the kids got to ooh and ah over it, and the families were really engaged and really proud of that. So it was a lot of fun. And then our science fair is happening this Friday night on May 2nd, and that is going to be a combination math, STEM, science night. So the kids will have their science projects, and we do partner with the planetarium, Deer Flats, the library, local library is coming and setting up in here. Lots of different community outreach happening through that. And then in the fall, we also switched up, and instead of doing our career day in the spring, we did it in the fall this year. We had 45 professionals join us, and every student got to attend 3 sessions. One of my favorites was Bruce the Cow. If you're on Instagram and follow Bruce the Cow, he has quite the following, and he was the favorite. We got him to come, and his presentation was all about how to be a social media influencer. And how to do things like that. And the kids were so into it. We always have, for the last 2 years, we've had someone that comes from the local, not a mortician, help from the morgue, and he brings a casket and all of his things and sets up for the kids to experience. We really do. Our counselors work really hard to put on such a huge variety of careers, and all the kids sign up for what they want to do. So we have everything from Army medics to medical personnel to, we had a person come set up with gemstones, and then someone that came and showed them how to make sushi. So we had,
In the middle?
I think that was a physical trainer. They're doing planks. Yeah. Yeah, it's another one of my favorite days of the year. The kids really love exploring all the different careers. We had a news personnel. I mean, there is such a vast, variety of things that kids get to choose from to go see. So it's always a lot of fun. Those are just some of the big highlights of our year. Thank you so much for your support. We really are looking forward to growing, building our CTE programs and growing some of our current programs that we have. Did I break it?
There we go. Now you should-
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mrs. Alshad, I've got a question for you. Yeah,
I'm supposed to ask if you have questions.
that's all right. A question for you, with the new school, what have been some of the challenges and some of the opportunities as you have been able, I mean, we sort of asked a lot of you, and your staff to convert a middle school into a 7-8 middle school from a 6-8 middle school, and just wondering some of the challenges and opportunities that you've had in that process.
Yeah, we've definitely had some challenges. A current challenge that we are now designing was thinking about promotion ceremony. A couple months ago, we were like, oh yeah, there are twice as many 8th graders that we're gonna try to do promotion ceremony for. It no longer works the way that we've been doing it. We can't even put 350 cars in our parking lot. So we have transitioned and now we are planning to do that at the high school. So definitely some things have been a little bit challenging. The thing that I think anticipated was putting kids together from Jefferson and Syringa. We anticipated, I think, more challenges with that. I think that we've all been really pleased with how that's come together. Trying to think.
While you're thinking, how about student?
Lunch was just the growing
Okay.
number of students, right? So lunch was a little bit of a challenge with that many students. We started off the year doing 4 lunches and realized that that was a lot with less classified staff. It was almost impossible. We were doing a 10-minute rotation. So it was taking quite a bit out of us and the cafeteria staff. So we kind of went back to the drawing board, went back to 3 lunches, and were able to fit them in, make it work. As we grow in numbers, that will be another interesting challenge for us, is the lunchroom and how we manage that.
Okay. How about the facilities? Like, what's the student population at right now approximately?
We are at last time I looked, it was it was like 690 something. It was just under 700. I know that the anticipation is next year somewhere around 720-ish, 720, 730. Right now, classroom wise, we're sitting pretty good. We have maybe 1 portable if we needed to add a class, but next year's numbers, we don't think we're going to be adding any teachers or classrooms. So right now we're good in our classrooms. We had to kind of repurpose some areas and do some of that configuring, but that has been okay for this year.
So, Chairman,
Vice Chair Messina.
what was the numbers, when you were 6, 7, and 8? Because they we're
Let me
about
think.
6.
I want to say it was 600. It was just under 600. So we grew by a little over, yeah. Yeah, so we grew by 120, 130 kids this
Okay.
year.
Mhm.
And we're expecting, I think, 20 or 30 in addition next year based on the numbers at Jefferson right now for 5th and
Mhm.
6th grade.
Okay.
I wonder if you can talk for a couple of minutes about some of the facility upgrades that have happened the last couple of years, and then some anticipated facility upgrades.
Sure, absolutely. We resurfaced or refigured the gym floor. We have put all new furniture last summer. Every classroom was outfitted with all new furniture, all new teacher desks, all new student desks and chairs, facilities wise. The science classrooms have all been remodeled. They all now have updated tables that move. They're more lab style tables. They have an eye wash station and a shower station for anything that might happen in case of emergency in the science labs. I know upcoming this summer, we have also put AC in the gym. So that was something that we added last year. We have also, all of the windows have had a film put on them on the outside that is a shatterproof film. We've done some of that on the inside as well. upcoming this summer and into next year, they're going to be redoing the HVAC. They're going to be putting new, doing some rewiring. I think Bernie was talking about maybe, I think new windows and doors on the outside, along the outside of the buildings.
Any other questions for Mrs. Olsheim? Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next on our agenda, the Caldwell School District SRO program, Mr. Eric Phillips.
All right, good evening, Chairman Manning, trustees, and Superintendent French. Dr. French, sorry. I'm here tonight to talk to you about securing our schools and investing in our students. Some time ago, I was asked to look into what would it take with the feasibility for starting a police department within Caldwell School District. So without further ado, I would like to start out with a short video before we lead into this, and we'll go over the rest.
Personal rewarding to me. As a police officer with a longer career, I've had an opportunity to save lives and bring lives into the world. And there's nothing more personal rewarding to me than making long-term positive change in the kids' lives. So a school resource officer, in my opinion, is a three-pronged job. First off, we're here for security. We want to make sure that the school is a safe environment for everybody that's on campus. You're also an educator. And the third, you have an opportunity to be a counselor and a mentor. So you get to talk to kids about getting on and staying on a good path in life and avoiding negative choices and consequences.
My name is Jessica Erdman, and I'm a school resource officer here at Riverview High School. I was a self-sponsored cadet in the academy. Working for Sarasota County Schools and being a school resource officer was my main goal. Before this, I was a surgical technologist, and I enjoyed helping people in the medical field. But working in the OR, you don't see the outcome. Being an SRO, you get to engage with the students every single day, and you really get to see the difference being made.
After 30 years of being in the Sarasota Police Department, I retired, thought I was ready to live the good life, and I wasn't. I felt like I had to give more back to my community. So I figured, okay, I like kids, and it's another career that I can start.
Morning.
The main difference is between being a law enforcement officer out in the streets versus SRO. You're more helping the kids, guiding them, counseling them. When it comes to crimes on campus, then that's where the two kind of merge together, because a crime is a crime. It's the same as being a street officer. There's no difference at that point. But here you're more of a counselor, trying to guide them, get them to make better decisions and having a better future for themselves, making a better future for themselves.
All right, let's focus in. Working for the Sarasota County School Police really appealed to me because I was able to go directly into a position as a school resource officer. I didn't have to go and work my way through patrol or working night shifts and weekends. And for the first time in my career, got to be off on weekends and holidays and be home with my family.
I talk to other officers who still are out in Sarasota Police Department where I work or Sheriff's Department and tell them, you know, hey, you're working with the kids, you're helping them become better citizens. The time off with your family, you're generally off the summers, you're off for winter break, Christmas, Thanksgiving, and spring break.
You always are guaranteed so much overtime. You get the time off with your friends and family. I mean, there's really not a better schedule or agency. Good morning. I love the relationship building with the students here. I really enjoy connecting with these kids and providing that guidance to them.
Every year there's a new group of kids that come in and newer experiences with them. It brings you back to that new officer mentality where you're like, I got to guide these young adults. If you have that kind of mentality when you come to being a school resource officer, you won't fail. You won't fail. Sky's the limit for you.
It's a really good feeling when you meet a student who's struggling and then they start to come around. You can really see that change in them. I don't know that there's really a word to describe that feeling, but it is a really good feeling. And even if my whole career I just get that feeling with one student, I feel like I will have done my job.
What's really exciting for me is that I actually get to make a very positive impact on a daily basis, and that's going to be the legacy of my career.
So we're here tonight to I'm here to present a vision for the Cole School District Police Department. It's about creating a proactive, youth-focused, and community-driven school resource officer police department that is equipped, trained, and committed to the unique needs of our students, families, and staff. One grounded in safety, service, and all right, so this is going to be some of our objectives tonight, the current model, why a dedicated school police department, learning from others, what we envision, building community trust, mental health and diversion, officer selection and training, collaboration, funding, what success looks like, and closing. All right, let's begin with where we are today. As we know, after the failure of the supplemental levy, we currently have no SROs. Sorry for that. In Caldwell School District. Last year, this is going from having 4 SROs, and the year before that, we had 5. Sorry, technical errors. Good video, but find it on YouTube later. Good. All right, where this falls short, currently having no SROs, inconsistent presence. Having no SROs leaves gaps in our campuses that leaves us vulnerable. It impacts the trust and relationship SROs build with our students, staff, and community, but not having access to police officers on a regular basis. That then leads us to what I would call a reactive model. The current system is solely relying on patrol, where police services is more reactive than proactive, responding to calls instead of preventing issues through presence and programming. SROs being pulled away, but the SROs that previously assigned to our schools, obviously there's a nationwide and valley-wide personnel issue, right? Shortages. So there's a lot of times they had to be diverted for whether it be training or general patrol duties due to those staffing shortages. Luckily, this year we did have Eagle Eye step in and provide extra security, which was a great asset to have, but they cannot do what police can. in the aspect of enforcing the law and other avenues. All right, here we go. So prior and current SRO costs. 2023 school year and before, and I don't know how far back we'd have to look, but my understanding was about 50,000 per SRO at the secondary schools, and then at which point we added an elementary SRO. It was in the $70,000 range, I believe was the higher end. For this last school year, when we still had SROs, they were right about 74,000 apiece, totaling just under $300,000. Because of that, we ended up reducing from 5 to 4. Looking at future pricing, this year, it would have been just under 81,000 per SRO, totaling 323,000. Next year, we were quoted at 88,185, which would total 352,000. And then the 2026-2027 school year, we were looking at 96,298 per SRO. If we were to go with 4 SROs, that'd be almost $400,000. And if you look at the projected rate of increase, if we were to stay on that same trend, we could be looking at well over $400,000 per SRO with the cost increases. You want me to hold it? Would that make it too loud? Yes, ma'am. Can you? Well, it's not doing anything. Can you click next? Thank you. All right. Very important thing for us is time on school grounds. With the prior model, we had SROs gone for training days or days off without coverage of an officer on at least one of our campuses for a total of 24 school days last year. This excludes that in the contract, they could miss up to 3 days per SRO before, it started counting against it per the contract, and that totaled 11 days. So total time without coverage of any officer on at least one of our campuses was 35 days in the last school year. There were additional days when SRO was gone, part of the day or all day, but the supervisor checked in with the school. And some of those reasons were training, court, reports, but this is common across the nation. It's not necessarily unique to this municipality, so that's a very common thing. Next, please. All right, why a dedicated school police department? That's the real question we want to look at. We're proposing a solution that mirrors successful models across the country, from Midway Independent School District to Los Angeles School Police Department, both of which I consulted while preparing this. Dedicated school police department allows us to ensure full-time trained officers available on campus all school day, and what we would ask is every day of the school year. Focus solely on school safety, enforcement, necessary laws, and student development. Build long-term trust between students and officers, as the agency would belong to Caldwell School District and the community. That would also allow us to customize policies, training, and goals to fit Caldwell School District values and educational mission. The chief of police and the officers for the Caldwell School District Police Department would answer directly to Dr. French and of course the school board, and we would also be governed by the Idaho Post Council. Next, please. So some of the folks I reached out to, I learned from others what works. From Chief Foley in Midway Independent School District in Texas, Lieutenant Hugo Godinez from LA School Police Department. We looked at some of the things they mentioned were clear objectives and strategic planning, which obviously, school safety is one of our pillars. Tailored training and youth development, de-escalation and mental health, diversion programs to keep students out of the criminal justice system if possible, partnerships with educators and social workers, and of course, transparency. We can track data and regularly evaluate the police department. Next. All right, national trends. City and county police departments are unable to fill SRO positions due to personnel shortages. With SRO contracts going unfilled or being canceled, school districts are having to take action to keep kids safe. Hundreds of districts across multiple states throughout the nation are adding school district police departments, just from data I picked up here. So in 2000, there was approximately 162. We head up to 2018, there's 300. And just recently, today there are at least 400 departments policing nearly 8 million students. School district police departments account for nearly 20% of all sworn school resource officers in the country, and that's according to the Advancement Project, and they just see that continuing to trend up towards 500 in a short amount of time. And this is just some of the stats on departments. This is one of the biggest ones I found. Miami-Dade, they have 460 SROs. LAPD has 211. Keep in mind, this is excluding staff, and those are massive agencies, all the way down to 5 officers, and there's some lower than that in other districts. Next, please. All right, what we would want to envision in Caldwell School District, if this were to be approved someday, we can create a department that reflects the best practices outlined in the Department of Justice guides for starting a police department, as well as advice from agencies around the state and country. Department structure will include the chief to run the department and answers, of course, to the board and the superintendent. And then 3 officers assigned by school trained through NASRO, which is the National Association of School Resource Officers. And of course, the chief would be stationed at one of the schools, so we'd have one at each secondary school. And of course, we could assign them elementary schools, much as we had in the past. And recommended would be a civilian staff member for processing reports, records, communication with the courts and other agencies. But the chief can also handle that. Next, please. So if we want to look at jurisdiction, right, of course, it would be all school district property, campuses, offices, and any maintenance facilities would be within the department scope. We'd want to establish clear MOUs between surrounding agencies as we share the same jurisdictions to ensure joint response in emergencies. And something very important to me is both Canyon County Sheriff's Office, Caldwell PD, of course, state police and others would be totally welcome in our schools, because they're not only part of our school district community. We would actively encourage them to conduct joint training in our schools or come by at any time for community-oriented policing. Next. Building community trust. Our officers will be mentors who actively engage with students in their assigned schools, instructors in classroom presentations on safety, internet awareness, bike safety, stranger danger, constitutional rights, which is very important, civic duty, and others. We will actively engage in restorative practices focused on keeping kids in school, not in the system, by working with Canyon County Juvenile Prosecutor's Office, and that's the diversion program I'd be talking about. And of course, enforce the law when it's necessary. Next, please. All right, so the SROs nationwide operate off the triad model, which is through NASRO. And really, that's just a model championed by the national, NASRO aims to promote positive relationships, foster a safe learning environment, provide valuable resources to staff, students, and the community. What that looks like is they would be educators, which I just talked about, informal counselors and mentors. Of course, we still have certified counselors that would take care of that, but they counsel students, and then the law enforcement officer side. By embracing this triad, SROs can effectively contribute to creating a safe, supportive, and positive learning environment for all students. Next, please. So looking at mental health and diversion, this will be very important because these issues can come up in school districts. So they have a mental health evaluation team that responds to students in crisis with school counselors and specially trained SROs. Of course, nurses can be included in these crisis teams. Another aspect we can use these SROs for is assist on district threat assessment teams or school threat assessment teams. We can look at connecting families with support, not necessarily citations, reduce unnecessary detentions or emergency holds for students that are having mental health issues. Of course, work with the Canyon County Juvenile Prosecuting Office, the juvenile division to staff cases in that diversion program I mentioned. Next, please. All right, officer selection and training. We don't want to just pick any officer, right? So we want to look at those that with either youth experience or interest. We don't want it to just be a vacation, right? We want to make sure they're invested in the students and their safety. So what was recommended by Midway Independent School District by the chief was at least 2 years minimum law enforcement. The beauty of that is they're already certified, so we wouldn't have to send them to a police academy. They already have some experience. I would recommend, if possible, taking that up to at least 5 years. Just to have a little more firmness in their experience and training. LA School Police Department did recommend year-round employment to ensure consistency for additional items, but you can have them restricted and just have your chief be the year-round employee to handle things that come up during the summer. Training program focused on school-specific scenarios, de-escalation mental health, regular legal and behavioral training updates from other school district officials, partnerships with NASRO and state required education. So post, there's a lot of training through them. They can help these officers further their training. Next, please. All right, just to look at some of the costs, I'll skim through this, but of course it comes with costs, right? Uniforms, there's some more modern gear. We don't necessarily have to go with everything, but this is kind of the national trend right now. So you're looking anywhere, the startup costs, 3,700 to 5,500 per officer. Next, please. All right, of course, we'd have to go through Canyon County Sheriff's Office, their emergency manager for radios, but I already got a quote for that. This would be a starting cost just to purchase the radios and get in the system. Of course, if we were to go with vehicles, I'll talk about shortly, this is per radio. And then we go to just a yearly subscriber fee. I'd recommend if we have 4 officers, have 5 radios on that initial purchase in case one were to be damaged. We don't have an officer out of a radio for some time. Next, please. All right, vehicles. Was recommended to have vehicles. That being said, a new vehicle is quite expensive and they would be in the schools a lot. So with a $72,000 price tag, of course, that's the fancy SUVs. There's some things you can take out of that. My recommendation would be to look in the used section. And there's a lot of used vehicles that come through GSA.gov that are far cheaper. Another option is, and Midway Independent School District actually had all theirs donated. So except for decals and maybe some maintenance, they were able to keep their costs way down. But this is just some of the costs associated with that. Next, please. All right, some additional costs, of course, computers, which go through the sheriff's office. It's called a mobile data terminal. Of course, we'd want to have a large safe that if you had a chief, they could store additional items in there that you'd want to keep in a secure location. And you can find those used online too, so far cheaper. You'd also want to make sure there was one that was for evidence specifically, because the evidentiary process we definitely want to follow. And we could work with Canyon County Sheriff's Office and others to, clarify evidence rules and procedures. There would be, to prosecute infractions, misdemeanors, and felonies, we'd have to look at, I haven't got a quote from them yet, I'm waiting on it, but they're working on it, to process those. And then, of course, dispatch. I did talk to one of their captains today. So for an agency that would be about this size, it would be around $10,000 or less a year, right? Because they have to hire our dispatcher or have them work more often. So that's where dispatching fees would go up. But in the beauty of computers, instead of calling on the radio all the time, and there's a per call fee, you can keep that down by self-generating reports and things on the police computers. So you can really scale that price down significantly. And that's through a program called Spillman, and that's just what they use for that database. Next, please. All right, so really what it comes down to start something like this, we have to look, what is even our authority, right? Multiple states are doing it, some states pass laws. So right here, Idaho Code 19-5110, political subdivision, application for aid requirements. Any political subdivision or state agency which desires to receive aid pursuant to the chapter shall make application upon a form supplied by the Idaho Post Council. Goes into a little bit more on how to submit it. But really what that comes down to is the school board would have to pass, approval of this if they were to want to go this direction in the future. And then once we have that and have to be a certified letter, we give it to Post Council. Post Council does not bless whether we get to start an agency. They simply train the officers and certify them. So if we were to go that direction, we'd have to work with them. Next, please. All right, funding and stability. Money is very important, right? So right now, there's some varying grants out there that we can get access to, but there's millions of dollars in grants that we cannot qualify for because we are not a law enforcement agency. Yes, this takes investment, but there are creative and proven ways to sustain the program. The Department of Justice COPS program is full of grants. They were closed off for a little bit, but they're now starting to open back up. We could potentially fund the officers through the Department of Justice COPS hiring program, and that's something we could look into if we wanted to reduce our costs. There's all sorts of state public safety and mental health funding. There's corporate partnerships. There's local nonprofits. And of course, once we get through that initial cost, then we just go to a maintenance, which may require some uniforms, oil changes in vehicles, some new tires every once in a while. But having our own officers would allow them to be able to attend our overtime events and things like that, and we wouldn't, depending on how they're set up, pay-wise to the district, we'd be able to have them work those events, unlike having to pay overtime where we currently do. So, establishing the Caldwell School District Police Department will open up access, as I said, to millions of department grants that police departments qualify for, but school districts do not. This also includes training opportunities that will be free or low cost for those SROs. Next, please. In 1 to 2 years, we can have officers fully integrated in school culture, launch a co-response model for mental health and threat assessment, develop and track metrics, build transparent reporting and community feedback systems. And there's always the option too. Many agencies start an Explorer Academy style program for students that are interested in that, especially if we had some sort of a summer law enforcement type setup. Next, please. All right, a safer, stronger Caldwell starts here. This isn't just about adding police, it's about reimagining school safety in Caldwell School District, and of course, the state of Idaho, because no one else has done this yet. Empowering our students and staff, and that would be to have more of that involvement and control. Police Department investing in prevention, compassion, and professionalism. Let's build a department that reflects the values of Caldwell School District and prepares us for the future. Next, please. All right, if we were to ever go to this direction, we'd want to know what next steps are. So we'd want to look at approval to begin the planning process, authorization to form a stakeholder committee, which would be, I would recommend students, parents, and school district members, support in pursuing state and federal grants, approval to begin recruiting a chief for the department. And of course, we'd want to set aside funding for a chief and 3 additional officers to be stationed at the secondary schools with that initial setup. Next, please. Let me close with this. A dedicated school police department is not just a solution, it's a commitment to safety, dignity, and potential of every student in the Caldwell School District. We must provide a safe learning environment for our students, which SROs have been a part of in our school system. Time and grounds must be at the highest level possible. And of course, if you're familiar with policing, one of the big well-known founders of modern policing is Sir Robert Peel. And he had a series of principles. Principle number 9, the test of police efficiency is the absence of crime and disorder, not the visible evidence of police action in dealing with it. This means we aim to create a peaceful environment where issues are prevented before they even arise rather than just reacting to them. And of course, this includes the school system. Next. All right, and for that, I stand for questions.
Yes, I've got one of my questions to start is what would be the difference between like the security, we have Eagle Eye security officers in schools, a couple, versus what SROs can do, Caldwell School District SROs versus what Caldwell PD SROs, what are some similarities and differences between the 3?
So it's a great question, Chairman Manning. To compare, right now, our security officers are stationed at 3 different schools and they stay at that school. They don't have any sort of patrol vehicle. They have radios in between the schools, but we don't move them in between schools. We have an option to always bring in like a secondary one if need be, but that's one of the big differences just between security and police is they don't have police radios. They're not a part of that system. So they're there to protect the kids, which has been very good this year and important, but they don't have any ability to enforce the law and have some of those other conversations because we don't employ them in the capacity of lecturing kids about making right choices or encourage them to make better choices. They have citizen arrest power. They just don't have quite the realm that police do for regular crimes. And we're not necessarily wanting to go arresting kids, obviously, but if it came to that, security can only detain versus police can enforce. We have a lot of vaping issues. Security cannot write them citations. That's something we can do, or even just the documentation of it, right? So if we maybe go with a warning this time, try and have that conversation about making better choices with police, then the next time they would at least be able to refer back to that something happened and they could go from there if they were to move forward with stuff. Big difference between school district police and the city police, right, is ownership. You as the board and Dr. French would have complete control over them and really their mission. right? They're still police officers, but whatever you wanted to focus on, that really, would be their realm, and there's no late night callouts. There's no other secondary duties that I would recommend at this point. We're not gonna have a SWAT team, drone teams, hostage negotiators, things like that, so.
Hopefully no.
Yes, ma'am. That's my chair. Yes, so that's just some of the add-ons, which is good for the city level, of course. But for the school, you know, not only can it take away because of those duties, which we understand that, but that would not be the case. So with our own agency, not only full complete control, you dictate what direction you want them to go, and they're answerable directly to you if anything were to occur.
Chairman Manning.
Trustee Godina.
Mr. Phillips, so you stated that in your prior and current SRO costs, you stated that there was a valley-wide shortage. How could we ensure that we would not have a shortage in police officers?
Chairman Manning, Trustee Godina, that's a great question. Obviously, there's a lot of officers that are coming out here from other states that are still certified. There's other officers locally that, you know, either retire or change of life plans, and, you know, they're still interested in policing, but not necessarily the stressful hours, right? These officers work a lot of long hours, called out, a lot is asked of them, right? And that's very honorable what they do. That being said, you know, we wouldn't have 60 or 70 officers to draw from like larger agencies, but they would be just ours, right? And if need be, they don't have a reserve program in the state, but, you know, we can look at having people on deck, as I would call it, like people in the system, if they were ever interested to come on board that are still certified. And that's the beauty of officers, if they are still certified within 1 to 5 years, 0 to 5 years leaving the agency, they could come work for us with no, 0 to 2 years, they can come right on board besides our regular background check. From 2 to 5 years, they would have to retake the test just to make sure they're familiar with the laws. If they're from out of state, they would just have to do a challenge test with post to do that. But really, it's just about recruiting and retention. I mean, if we provide the right environment, right, and people can see that, hopefully, you know, that'll attract the right candidates to come for a significant amount of time.
So follow-up question to that, Mr. Phillips. So how would we be paying these officers as far as, are we just paying them for the school year? Are we paying them all year round when they're on vacation, summer vacation? What does that look like?
Chairman Manning, Trustee Godina, so really it comes down to how we want to set that up, right? If we go to some larger agencies, obviously they do year round, but there's other agencies that they're off for the summer. They're off during the breaks. I would recommend adding in maybe a day or two during the break, training, reports, things like that. But we do have school days where there's non-directed days, I believe is the term. So that could be days that are set up, so they're not having to train during school days or even during the break. So the less days they work, right, if we were to go more of a teacher style contract, then we could reduce that pay. But once again, they recommended if you had a chief, you'd want the chief to have more hours throughout the year to be available to the board, superintendent and others in case something were to come up, vandalism, do training, things like that during the summer. So right now, I know we have our supplemental levy that pays for school safety and security. I don't know the technicalities on whether that's even possible to pay for that, but once we have an agency, and some agencies simply start out with a chief, right? Because they have to set it all up, policies, procedures. They also recommended not reinventing the wheel. We use local agencies, but once we have a department established, we can start applying for all those grants that we currently cannot apply for if we were to go that route.
So that would take care of it maybe in the first 2 years of the chief working all year round.
Yes, and then once we get that federal funding in, hopefully, right?
Yeah.
There's a lot of agencies that get it, especially smaller agencies. We would just have to finally be authorized to put in
Yeah.
for that stuff. And then I believe they're 3 years at a time, typically. Sometimes it's 25% cost share.
So I guess my concern would be, the rest of the time after all that is set up, that chief is gonna, I mean, how many times realistically would anybody get called out in the summertime when there's nothing going on?
I would
I
say,
guess that's my concern.
yes, Trustee Godina, that would be except for the summer school timeframe during that, June. That would be a timeframe. So you could also, if pay was the issue, schedule that person to be off for the month of July, come back in August, start things back up and just be on an on-call basis. And go from there. So that way we're not paying someone. Conversely, you can also task them with doing programs. If you had something that the board is, wanted that chief and or officers to pursue any of these other programs, that could be in their direction. Mentoring kids, going to JDC even once or twice a week, talk to those kids and try and get them to make better choices and stay out of the system.
Yeah, I mean, I think taxpayer money I think they would frown on the chief twiddling his thumbs during summertime when there's
Yes.
nothing going on. So that was my concern.
Yes.
Other questions from the trustees? Mr. Robinson?
Yes, Mr. Phillips. So this is such a totally new concept to me, Caldwell School District having their own police force. So, what I hear you saying is think of Caldwell School District as a city within the city of Caldwell. And
Yes.
where the city of Caldwell School District is going to have their own police force.
Yes.
Would that be correct?
Trustee Robinson, yes.
Okay.
That would be correct.
So within that community of Caldwell School District and our police force, you are saying that we could tap into the state, I know there's the training where
Yes.
all the police officers, sheriff's officers, we can recruit from those systems?
Yes, we can.
Okay. And then we can set our own contract with the people, the chief, whatever. So I guess my mind is that we just think of us as a little city
Yes.
and this is gonna be our police force, so we can create it in the manner that fits our community of Caldwell School District.
Yes, Chairman Manning, Trustee Robinson. So right now, we utilize the macro, right, citywide versus going down to,
Right.
I wouldn't say a micro, but a much smaller version of just our school properties. Now, some states have made the entire school district, right, their jurisdiction, but I'd recommend keeping it at the school boundaries at this point to minimize other things that they could get involved in, that we rely upon other agencies.
Meaning the Caldwell School District boundary.
Caldwell's, yeah, the entirety of the Caldwell School District boundaries, which
Does-
includes city and county, right? So dual jurisdiction there. Or my recommendation is just to keep it at that actual school property.
So with that, I'm going to make an assumption that with all of this being said, we could potentially have maybe more SROs at a lower cost than we can contract them through Caldwell Police Department.
Yes, if we were to be awarded the grant systems, including, we would have to do a comparison with the CFO and others, to look at what could we pay, right, to attract recruits in addition to what, the pricing equates to. What's the similarities, because of course we have benefits and things like that. But if you do shrink down that contractual year, right, to free up some of those times where they're not sitting at the school twiddling their thumbs, that would lower our costs overall. And then once we access that grant funding, the sky's the limit. There's so much money out there that we just cannot touch because we don't have that
Right.
ability.
So it opens up those revenue stream potentials with grant
Yes, ma'am.
money. Well, the thing that's always concerned me about the SROs from Caldwell Police Department was looking back at how many times they were not present. And yet we were paying pretty large amounts contract and they weren't on school property. So this would be different because these people would be dedicated to the Caldwell School District Police Force.
Yes, Trustee Robinson. The big picture is it operate off the school calendar, right? Police departments do great work, but they have a much larger picture they're looking at, even when contracting with us. We've had, they've done great things for us, but they have that bigger mission that they look at versus this would be super focused on simply the school district and what's going on during the school day.
Well, and I appreciate the film that you presented because I often wonder how, people who have retired from some sort of school, police force, sheriff's department, maybe even like retired fish and game officers, people that have gone through the training.
Yes.
That they may say, boy, I'd really like to hang out at a school, have summers off, kind of stay up on my skills, but I can't do the police call outs in the middle of the night anymore kind of thing. So that seems appealing to be able to look at that as a potential of drawing from other resources. Okay, thank you very
Yes.
much.
Chairman,
Vice Chair Pacino.
yes, thank you for the presentation. It's interesting. And thank you for taking care of me. Trustee Robinson. Trustee Robertson brought up the fact that, we may get some officers that might be like at the end of their career or, and I get that, you don't have to be on call 24/7, but and there's just one concern that I have is, like the Uvalde shooting that happened. And Uvalde has, a school police department as well. And my concern would be, are we gonna have officers that will do what they need to do at the time they need to do it and not like go, okay, what do we do? Cause we were supposed to be doing kindergarten specials or something, and that's my concern is that I would hate for it to be, like, okay, this is gonna be not so, not out there in the trenches, but, are they prepared to protect our kids the way they need to protect our kids and be on the go and, be able to do what they need to do? That's my only concern. And I don't know, I know that I saw the list that you put out there. There's a lot of Texas schools that do have police departments, and it would be interesting to, I don't know, call them up and find out how, I don't know, or call trustees. I don't know. I'm just thinking, I'm just percolating.
Yep.
Cause then I get to percolate.
Percolating.
It happens, yeah.
But that's my only concern is that, I just want to make sure that they can do what they need to do, be on top of it if it comes to, what the
Active
reason that we have, the issues that we have, if we have a kid that is already in the school building and that, cause that's what we've learned from our, I believe, hopefully the program that we will implement, the one where, oh gosh, I can't remember this, the one program that the gentleman that talked to us at, that conference, sorry. Yes,
Yeah.
Yes.
it was in-
I can't remember the program, but anyways, that to make sure our kids are prepared if they see something, not just see something, but, say something, but, because the data has shown that for the high school or secondary school, usually the threat is from the inside and not so much from the outside. So that's just my 2 cents, my comment, but thank you for it's good data and interesting how that's what a lot of schools are doing. I was interested in looking at the list of how many schools are doing it in different states.
Yes, Chairman Manning, Vice Chair. First and foremost, Uvalde was horrible. It was embarrassing. It angered police and especially SROs all across the nation. Marjorie Stone was another. Is that the correct way to say it? Okay, sorry, I switch it sometimes. Both were embarrassments, and I know there was a real revitalization because there was a big microscope after that, and I millions of times agree with your statement. We need to make sure we're getting the right people that are ready to push that button, go from intermingling with the kids to the protector, right, at all costs. And that would one thing I would want to strive the most is that, officers don't want to lose their lives, but they better be willing every day to show up and give their life in defense of these children, because the children have the whole future ahead of them versus those of us that have been in this realm have lived enough years that we better be ready to protect them, at all costs. So
Our
I,
teachers do.
I agree with you, absolutely. And there was some incidents after that that, you saw kind of that change, a more aggressive stance because those officers, did not agree with what happened in Uvalde and others. So they went right to the threat, and, neutralized that. I believe you were talking about Threat Zero. Was that the, program? Yes. Mr. Hart, the Hart brothers.
Yes.
Yes, so Threat Zero, that was the program, but yes, I agree, we have to make sure we choose the right people that are calm when needed to be and good mentors, but ready to take the fight and win if anything were ever to present itself in our schools.
Okay, thank you.
Chairman Manning, one more question.
Trustee Godin.
Mr. Phillips, you said that, we'd be the first one in Idaho to do this. Why don't you think nobody else has done it in the state?
Chairman Manning, Trustee Godin, that's a good question. I mean, without having those conversations, I just don't know if anybody's even explored it, right? I know that through recent SRO grant program, there's quite a lot of districts that have no SRO, so state luckily, and there's a lot of small districts that, could be interested in that, but really I'd have to have conversations to ask them, but there's other states that are now, like Florida, right? They went from almost nothing to, they changed the state law and it opened a floodgate of, over 100 departments. Texas, right after Uvalde, another 100 departments. So at some point they had none, and now they've done that. So whatever that catalyst was to send them in that direction, it changed and they went with that. So this could be, right, if we were able to go forward with this, could be the change. You may see that change across the state.
I guess I didn't see anything from our school district lawyers about anything, so, I mean, that'd be
Of
good
course,
information as well,
Yes.
because without that, this doesn't mean anything.
liability and other
Yeah.
things, yes.
Chairman Manning,
Right.
trustees, thank you. Chairman Manning had asked us to just explore that. He has visited with Chief Ingram in talking about how to best support Caldwell schools with SROs, and Chief Ingram led us to the gentleman from the Los Angeles Unified School District to visit with them about their SRO program, and we were exploring based on a request. So we haven't gone much deeper than what Mr. Phillips has presented this evening, but that we just want to make sure the board's aware, and we would definitely explore deeper if the board so chooses.
Dr. French, do you want to talk about sort of, if you're prepared to at this time, like what we're looking at next year as far as security, SROs, that kind of thing?
Yes, thank you, Chairman Manning, trustees. So Cheryl, Ms. Sanderson, Vice Chairman Pacina, and I were able to meet with Chief Ingram and Captain Rosen. Saboga is working with Cheryl right now. Can you help me with that again? Saboga, okay, thank you. Sopoga. Okay, I'm just gonna say Lieutenant, he's awesome. He is very kind and he's been working with Cheryl, working on the contract for 2 SROs. Caldwell believes they can provide 2 SROs for the next school year. But that's what they have available. I reached out to Katie Watkins from the state, and they will still allow us to use year 2 of that grant. We were not able to use year 1, but they would allow us to use year 2 as long as we commit before July 1. And so right now, we're just waiting for the Caldwell City Police, the department, to return the MOU. We were just using the same MOU that we had prepared when we submitted the grant. And that's where we're at right now. We just haven't heard back from them.
And we're gonna be able to utilize the Caldwell police officers.
2, they said they felt they could provide 2 officers next year. So one
That
would
was-
be,
And I'm sorry, that was approved through the city council, or?
Chief Ingram asked me to meet with him, which I did, and he and Captain Rosen will be meeting with the mayor.
Okay.
They reached out to Cheryl to verify the contract, and that Chief Ingram will be taking that to the mayor to take to the city council.
Okay.
So we're just in the process of solidifying the MOU, but Chief Ingram is fully supportive of that. But it hasn't made it to city council.
Okay. Thank you.
So Dr. French, so the contract with the Caldwell PD SROs would be like 1 year at a time.
Chairman Manning and trustees, so we do have the grant for 2 more years, which we're so we're anticipating that grant for 2 more years, so we would expect an officer for 2 years on the grant. And we're expecting at least 2 years, for both officers, one at Caldwell High, one would be at Syringa and Canyon Springs. Now that Canyon Springs will be on Fillmore, it will be a lot closer for the officer to attend both schools. I'm hopeful because we are writing that contract as a 2-year contract based on the funding we're receiving from the state for one of those officers. So I would anticipate it's a 2-year contract with increases for salary.
So on top of that, if we got something going pretty quickly, we'd have that many. Or when are you looking on starting this community
Oh,
policing?
Chairman Manning, Trustee Godina. So are you referring to this presentation this evening? Or-
Yeah, I mean, when are you looking on?
Oh,
A couple years?
that really
5
is
years,
the
10
board to
Okay.
consider. Is this something that you would like to consider going in the future? As Mr. Phillips presented, it's not something we were anticipating right away, but it's an idea to consider. And I wouldn't, and there's still a lot of groundwork to be done, if
Lots.
that's something the board would like us to pursue or to look into further. Right now, we are very hopeful that Pueblo City will provide 2 officers for next year.
For the next 2 years?
Yes,
Next
sir.
2 years.
Yes, sir.
Okay,
That is how the MOU will be.
yeah, okay. Okay, thank you.
Dr. French, how would you anticipate the security? Would we use Eagle Eye Security or not? Are we sure about that yet? Or
Chairman Manning, trustees, so we're not sure yet. We do, I will say, Ms. Elstride could probably speak to it as well. They've done a very nice job for us. They are funded federally. And right now, we're still waiting to know federally how that's going to be distributed. Will there be Title IV funds? It's really hard to know at this point because all those funds came out of federal dollars and I look to the left of the room to see if there's really we don't know anything on that. So,
Would it be safe to say if we're getting two SROs, do we need Eagle Eye?
Chairman Manning, Trustee Godina, so visiting with Chief Ingram and Captain Rosen. They felt like they would like to meet with them. There may still be a need for them. Also having that person on campus when the officers pulled away. But there would have to be some agreements made, which we talked about in our meeting with Chief Ingram, of what would that look like? How would they support one another? Or Captain Rosen has asked for a meeting with Eagle Eye Security to meet them, and because it would be, there's just some concerns that they've raised, which I agree with, but Jefferson has no security person, right? So could Eagle Eye help at Jefferson,
Oh, there you go.
right? If
There's different options.
yes, and Chief Ingram and Captain Rosen are open to the conversation. But they do want it be, we do want to know who has which duty and who will be the command officer in charge at the school.
Well, I gotta say, thank you for going out and meeting with whoever went out there, and talking to the CPD. It's very important that we're connected, so. Thank you.
Well, and I would just, oh, sorry, Chairman Manning and Trustee Godina, I appreciate, Vice Chair Pacina was there, Mrs. Sanderson was there. I thought it was a very good meeting. Really, I felt productive, but they have two officers they feel they will have ready for next year.
Yeah, and just so, we did ask for more, but it, at the time, just
Ask for more.
ask for more SROs if we needed them, if we, with the way the supplemental levy went and everything, and if we had the funding. It was just like, okay, could we get more? And they were like, they just said, we only have so many,
Yeah.
but,
Short
yeah, and yeah, I think and that's what, yeah, I thought, but, yeah. I had a question, if I could, I don't know if you had a.
No.
And so I saw, the staff from here nodding their head that they do need, that it's important that they have eagle eye. Yeah, and so how, I know that we've been told before, but Eagle Eye is at, I know it's at the high school and here and Canyon, okay. And how many do you have here? One, okay. And then you also have one safety aide, is that right?
Yes.
Okay.
There's school aid.
There's school aid. There we go. Okay, I know. What'd he say?
He's here as a patron.
Okay, all right. Yeah, okay, so
But
that
yes.
makes sense. All right. So. Beautiful.
Thank you. Thanks, sir.
Okay,
Mhm.
that is information only. We move on now to community event reports. Mrs. Brita Velasquez.
Good morning, good evening, rather.
Good morning, Ari.
Chairman Manning, trustees, Dr. French, thank you so much for this time and giving me this opportunity. I did just want to give a little background and context. Dr. French, Vice Chair Marisela Pesina, and myself did have the opportunity to go to the Idaho Hispanic Foundation earlier in April. We were invited to a community forum to discuss changes that have been occurring in our community as a result of related to immigration and how it is affecting our community and how different community stakeholders are addressing that and providing information and supporting our families. We felt that the information was so valuable and it was a worthwhile experience that we thought this was information that our families, particularly our families in the Farmway Village area, really could benefit from. So from there, that is what gave us the inspiration to have our Farmway Community Roundtable. So, thank you. And I only have 3 slides, so we'll be in great shape. Thank you. So I recently also had the opportunity to go to Caldwell High School and see their seniors present their senior project. And I was so enamored with their format that I'm going to be borrowing their format for this presentation. So first I'm going to go into what went well for the Farmway Village Community Roundtable. First off, we had a fabulous MC who was our Vice Chair, Marisela Pesina.
Oh, boy, you gave her a
No
microphone.
microphone.
Right,
That is a mistake.
dream come true.
Which was excellent. We also had a very strong panelist showing. We were able to network with some folks who were at the Idaho Hispanic Foundation event, and we were able to bring in a number of folks from different areas. So for example, we had Dr. Michaela Schulte, who is the Chief Medical Officer of the St. Luke's Nampa Hospital. And she was able to speak to our families about the policies and procedures that are put in place at St. Luke's specifically, but also other hospitals more generally regarding protecting patient information and just the fact that immigration status is not requested when individuals go to seek care at hospitals. So, and just Dr. Michaela Schulte was also able to stress the importance to families of not being afraid to seek general medical care, but to take care of their health. We also had Brandy S. Pettis, who is an immigration attorney, and she was able to speak with our families about the importance of just being prepared and having a plan. We did have some representatives from the Mexican consulate They were Rodrigo Hava Solano and Rodrigo Padilla Moreno, who were able to speak about services that they provide to citizens of Mexico, as well as programs that are available to Mexican citizens should they decide to return to Mexico. There's a program called Mexico Te Embraza, or Mexico Te Abraza, excuse me. Mexico Embraces You, that is just prepared to facilitate families and individuals should they need to return to Mexico and starting a new life over there. We also had Dr. French participate on the panel, and she was able to speak to some of the policies and procedures we have put in place here within the Caldwell School District that have been pre-existing January 2025. They include policy 3545, which is student questioning and arrest, as well as our policies regarding student records. So Dr. French was just able to talk about how we maintain access control at our schools, and also how we respect the parental rights law of Idaho, that should a law enforcement officer desire to speak to an individual, they would need to request access from a principal, and that parent would then be contacted. We also were very fortunate in having Amy Ruano, who is the community schools liaison for Sacagawea Elementary. She was there just to express the powerful work that community schools does, particularly in our elementary schools, in making children feel safe and supported when they're at school. She talked extensively about the relationships that she had built with students and her work to promote attendance at our elementary schools. And I was also on the panel as well, just encouraging families to be advocates for their children and to feel welcome to go into the school, and if they had questions, to contact the school and work with the schools. Something else that went really well was the Caldwell Housing Authority staff were just phenomenal. They provided an excellent space for us. We were at the event center. They provided a very nice barbecue for us, and it was nice to sit down as a community, as panelists and eat. And we did have the room felt pretty full eventually. And so I will say that also our Caldwell Housing Authority staff were excellent in driving turnout and inviting families to attend the event. Some learning for next time. We do believe that 6 p.m. may be too early to be a community event, particularly when the farm work season, the agricultural season is starting. We still have lots of families who are still coming home around 6 p.m. So would we do this event again? We would have it rather at 7 p.m. or just another time, a weekend, perhaps a Sunday. And also, we just really learned that it's essential to have the community stakeholder who is there hosting really be involved in inviting families in. So Amy Ruano and I had gone out to Farmway Village and talked to families. We'd done a little door knocking. We had sent out a Blackboard message to families inviting them to come to this meeting. But really it was Teresa Sanchez from Caldwell Housing Authority calling families and saying, hey, they have really good information that you need. That is what brought families into our door. So I will share that. I would also strongly encourage picture taking. There may be a few pictures out there, but they're a little minimal. So moving on, I do have a larger community update that is related to this is my last slide. That is related to the Farmway Community Roundtable event. Chair, my understanding that you would like an update on 2 of our families who had family members who were deported.
Correct.
Yes,
Yeah,
okay.
If you would.
So I will speak in very general terms just to maintain confidentiality, but we did have a family where they were put into deportation proceedings, but they are actively working with counsel they have some avenues to fight the deportation. And so they are here and their students are still in school, which I am Happy to report. We also have another family where the father was deported at a routine appointment that he had. His student, the student in the family just recently graduated. And so now in this family, the student who has graduated is now the chief earner for the family and is supporting the family by going out and he's the person who's able to go work and leave the house, whereas other family members are a little hesitant to leave the house, unfortunately, at this time. We have also had reports in our migrant education program. We've had some reports of families who have received texts and phone calls telling them that they are no longer welcome in the country and that they need to leave. We have, however, also seen an increase in ICE-related scams. So a good resource that was shared at the Farmway Community Roundtable was the uscis.gov/avoid-scams website. So if families receive a suspicious phone call, I would really strongly encourage them to visit this website. And they even have state-specific tabs where you can see in your state, such as Idaho.
So Ms. Velasquez, real quick, so what you're saying is there's sort of a concerted effort by some to create fear in the minds of people that are undocumented, something to that effect?
Yes, so there are just some general scams out there. People are preying on undocumented people by saying, you know, you are going to be put into deportation proceedings, give me money, or I can turn things around for you, pay me, and I can file the magic paperwork. Those scams are pretty general. So if people receive suspicious contact, they just need to reach out to look at that website, a federal website that will have official information. And then what I will share too is that when families, if they do have a family member who is deported, they're not often proactively telling schools about that. It's something that we may find out after the fact from chatting with the family about another matter. So there's really no way of knowing exactly how many families are experiencing this, especially because we do not ask families for immigration information or status.
Okay, any questions for Ms. Velasquez?
Chairman Manning,
Trustee
Mr.
Regatta.
Velasquez. So historically, at Farmway Village, there's always been the demographic of seasonal workers, farm workers. What's a demographic now? I know back in the 90s when I was around there, it was 99% farm workers, Latinos. What's a demographic now? And is there maybe a different place that we could hold a roundtable where there's a bigger area of that, maybe called the high school or somewhere else, that we could hold a roundtable with a bigger venue?
Trustee Godina, Chairman Manning, thank you for the question. You know, I am not an expert on the demographics of Farmway Village, but what I will share is that we did certainly have folks coming straight from working in the fields to our event. There is still H2A worker housing in Farmway Village, so that is certainly still an element out in Farmway, but yes, it is not exclusively farm worker housing. It is just more in general affordable housing. So there is a mixture of families who are there who may or may not be involved in farm working. One potential venue that did come up, it was mentioned to me by Amy Ruano, was perhaps a church in the community. There is a church that her mother was a pastor at that is right in the middle of Sacagawea zone. That would be a really good venue for this event. But yes, I would certainly love to host another event, especially as the summer wears on and we get closer into the school year. It might be a really nice way to welcome families into the school year. So I'm very excited and open to suggestions.
Because I know there's a need, because I know there's people just putting fear out there. And, you know, may or may not be true, I don't know. But I'm thinking a larger venue because people aren't going to the hospital. A lot of people are not going to the hospital. I don't know how many. Not going to hospital, not reporting crime, not going to school. So I think we need to put that information out there for a larger crowd in our community.
Thank you. I agree. I would be very excited to work on further events of this nature.
Awesome.
I have a comment.
Right, so-
Thank you. Sure. So yes, it was a great night. When we first started, there was hardly very many people, but you know, from working there a few years ago, it happens all the time. It isn't until people, you know, they don't really know what it's about. And, you know, we've been able to bring them drum when there's food. And so just for the record, the max that can fit there at Farmington Village is about 1,500 people. So that's like, that's probably bigger than 900 cities and towns in the state of Idaho. And, you know, it could be a little town of its own. But what I did want to say is, yeah, 1/3 of it used to be back in the day H2A workers, but then they're kind of, the farmers are trying to do housing, you know, build their own housing. And so it's decreased a little bit, but there's also one of the goals of Public Housing Authority was to be able to get folks, to provide housing for people that work at different warehouses or, production companies or whatever. But so there's a mixture of a lot of different types of people. But it is a safe place. It's out there. There's a lot of cameras. It's, you know, there's a lot of kids riding their bikes and playing outside. And so it was a great place to do it. And from, you know, just talking to people and knowing the people that I know, they would rather go to a safe place, which to them, churches are a safe place, or where they live is a safe place. So more so than going to a school. I mean, we know how hard it is to get our parents to come here. We gotta throw mariachi out there or, you know, food or whatever to get our families to come. But I mean, that's reality. Let's face it, that's reality. One thing that I heard from a lot of the folks that were there were like, oh, I know some people who could really benefit from this that don't live here, like my parents could, or, and then there's also what a lot of people fear of, like the consulate. And that's not, that's just undocumented people in general, like fearing to go into a government building, no matter what it is. And the consulate should be a welcoming place for whichever country those people are from. But, you know, some people have said, you know, the consulate here is a lot, they feel safer versus going to a consulate, the Mexican consulate in Seattle or the one in Utah. So, you know, that, to me, the way these people were expressing themselves, and the reason for all this happened was when Mr. Rudy Rodriguez, you know, mentioned to Chief Ingram about the problem, like, why are they just arresting people? But it was a nice way to say, this is what our job is, and this is what we do, and this is what, you know, and like Trustee Godina said, you put fear in people, and they're not gonna go to the doctor, they're not gonna go get, you know, if they have some type of, you know, a regimen of vaccines you have to take, or prenatal, or whatever it is, and they're not gonna come to school because they're scared, because they see, you know, cops, something going on somewhere, they're like, oh, for sure, that's ICE, and so it's important that they understand, and I felt it was a really good venue, but most importantly, so our families feel safe, and I think they just don't know. And the nice thing too is that Dr. French was able to answer some questions, like, because Farmway Village is where it's at, and it is different school districts around it, like Notice School District and Middleton and Caldwell. So, you know, it was like, yeah, we all should follow the same federal laws. And, you know, that's all the federal laws for all the schools. And we learned that at the first one with the NAMPA superintendent that was there. So I think that it was good, and I think it should be, it should be repeated, because I think we will have more people that will really need to be educated on, you know, that there's resources, and not to be so scared.
Thank you, Vice
Thank you.
Chairman.
Mhm.
Thank you, Chairman Warren.
Other questions from the trustees? I've got a question for Dr. French, hypothetical. Thinking about Ms. Velasquez's comment about some of the families from the farmland village that have been deported and their kids are Caldwell School District students. And thinking about our relationship with law enforcement, say federal law enforcement agencies, there are many, whether it's Homeland Security, FBI, ICE, et cetera, tobacco and firearms, et cetera. But thinking about the current administration and their efforts to support families, I'm thinking about what is the district's policy when it comes to a procedure for dealing with requests from federal agencies, for example, about, say, particular students in our school system?
Chairman Manning, thank you for that question.
You're welcome.
So Ms. Perez, the immigration attorney, has shared with us documentation that we should look for on warrants and or I'll say a warrant to talk to a student. That's been shared out so that principals know what is a legal judicial request and what is an ICE request. They are different. And we need a legal judicial request for someone to speak to a student. If someone comes on campus, they are stopped and the principals, they'll need to interact with the principal. They don't walk through the building.
So if it's a federal agent of some kind.
That's right. It's just like anybody, they are.
Or
to be
state
stopped.
agent, they would all need to.
Well, everybody does. And even an SRO who may become, or I shouldn't say an SRO, an officer who comes to school has to stop, visit with the principal. And some of that student information, parental rights, parents have the right to know if somebody wants to speak to their child or interview their child. Some of the student information may be that a parent does not want that shared with anyone. They have the right to say, you cannot share my child's directory information. So we
Even
really
if
do.
do they have to be a citizen to say that? Or
No, every parent has that right.
Interesting.
We don't ask. We don't know. We don't ask that. We don't collect social security numbers. We don't ask if immigration status. We don't ask that. But the principal, as I looked at Ms. Elscheid, is the person, the go-to person. And if someone comes on campus, they need to be redirected to that principal. And then we just work to make sure that the principal knows what to look for and or call us so that we can.
All secretarial staff or anyone that might be coming in contact with people as they enter the building have all been given the same direction. Those people are not to enter the building unless they have contact with them.
Chairman Manning, Dr. French, so can you clarify this? So in kindergarten age group coming in, we ask for a birth certificate.
Yes, we do.
Okay,
Mhm.
so is there a potential of something? Is there a potential of them maybe looking for something like that, birth certificates or?
That's not public.
Okay,
So is that what you're asking?
yes.
Yeah, that's not public information. So directory information is public. And military recruiters can ask for directory information. College recruiters can ask for that. And we would, usually at the secondary level, which we would provide if the parents have agreed to allow us to do that. Your name, first, last name, your grade level, probably the sports you play or activities you're engaged in,
Address.
and an address.
Oh, okay.
But elementary students, that's rare to be asked for directory information because that's just really rare. And parents are still informed that there's someone who's asking about your student.
Because you can always be born in Mexico, but be a citizen here.
You could, yes,
Mhm.
that's right.
I was just always under the impression that we ask every student for a birth certificate.
We do.
We do,
Mhm.
okay,
Mhm.
okay.
It's one
So
way to
what
make
if-
sure
what
that
if-
child is, that parent is that,
Belongs to that.
that they're,
child.
yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay, so what if the child is born in Mexico, like my son is saying,
They would, they still have a birth certificate,
oh, okay, okay,
but that's not something that we share.
okay,
So,
okay, thanks for clarifying.
does that make sense? I mean,
It does, yeah.
okay.
It's not like we
Thank
track the birth certificates that are in Spanish or something or from a foreign country or.
That's a good question. We say we have the birth certificate.
See?
Yeah, I'm looking, have you seen anything like that?
Reporting about, I'm trying to think, I want to speak accurately, but in terms of, like, we know which students are in their first or second year of education in the United States, right? So people can make assumptions based on some of the information that we have in the report to the state, but again, that's protected information. And again, there's nothing that we confirm. But, so the birth certificate would be, I wouldn't say we need that information for that purpose, but that is part of, so we have that, it's just part of it. So I mean, to be perfectly honest, there are some things that have to be reported to the state that people could extrapolate information from. But it is protected information for that, there's this one. And it's that's federally protected.
Dr. French.
I was thinking about like our foreign exchange students.
Oh,
You know,
sure.
that's what we have their birth certificate. Our foreign exchange students, making sure they have 25-year-olds and.
Chairman Manning.
Just to go get it.
So Ms. Elshad,
Yes.
am I saying that
Yeah.
correctly? So you say your staff is trained on,
Yes.
okay, Dr. French, are all administrators trained on that we know of? or-
Chairman Manning and Trustee Godin, I will have to ask, but I would,
I
I
know
would-
we had a conversation about it in
Absolutely
our,
hope so.
like, admin, our district
We
leadership
did.
chat, and I did share the documents that I shared with my secretarial staff and the letter and email that I sent to all of our staff, I also shared out in one of our district leadership chats, so we had a conversation about that.
And follow up to that, Mr. Phillips is probably on a lot of that stuff. Is that right, Mr. Phillips, that you know about, or what our policies are?
Sent out with the direction on what to look for, what not to look for, have that administrator conversation,
Okay,
and know what to respond to.
yeah,
okay.
and I just speak to Mr. Phillips receiving an interesting email, which he quickly directed to me because of just wanting to make sure that it was legitimate and that we weren't disclosing student information.
Sure, I'm sure there's a lot of scams going on, even at our level.
Or not scams. So this is my next question.
Or not.
Or not.
So hypothetical or not so hypothetical question. Let's say the Department of Homeland Security contacts Caldwell Police Department and wants to know about they want to check on the welfare check on children of deported adults. And they request through Caldwell Police Department that the SROs in the district, in our district, verify, look at our student information systems and verify their address and other information so that they might do a welfare check with these children. What is the district's approach to a hypothetical or not so hypothetical situation that may or may not occur?
Chairman Manning, trustees, that was directed to me. And I contacted our attorney. And the information that was provided to Mr. Phillips, there was really no reason to respond. The person had all the information they needed. The attorney said it appears that the person has everything they needed. I don't understand why they're contacting the school. So Mr. Phillips was given direction to let them know that it appears that you have the information you needed and that he is not, he would be checking to see if he should be responding to the request, which I appreciated that. It was a very interesting situation.
So Dr. French, I mean, we don't have SROs at the moment. let's say we did have SROs in place and Homeland Security did contact Caldwell PD and then ask their officers who are SROs in our districts, give us that information from your school information system. Would we provide that information about students to a federal agency like Homeland Security?
Chairman Manning, trustees, so we don't have, our SROs in the past have not had access to the school information system. They have just limited or they have to go to the attendance clerk to ask for that information. We've, as per our attorney, that's how we have operated, because that information, there's so much in our student information system that it's protected, and it's a need to know only. So that's what we would do. We'd also make sure that our SROs and our security folks understand that you don't know if you need to check with the building principal. That information may be protected by a parent who said, you're not to give this out to anyone. So all of that needs to be researched before you agree to something like that. There might be a special case for that student, that they're in protective custody with someone, and we just don't want to randomly share that. And I would say if Miss Elshide received something, a request like that, I would have no doubt she would call me and we would contact the attorney and say, this is what we're being asked to do.
And just to follow up to that, I think we can get into so many different scenarios. But I mean, I'm glad we're all working together as a community to make our schools safer for.
Well, they are our kids.
Yeah.
They are our kids, and
Mhm.
it matters to
Yeah.
us.
Okay, that sounds, thank you.
Okay, any other comments or questions?
Good update. Thank you, Ms. Bell.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. The ratifying the 4th of July memorandum of understanding with the city of Caldwell, Dr. French.
Yeah, Chairman Manning and trustees, this, last year, you'll recall that we hosted the July 4th firework display. I met with the mayor again and city planners and fire. They asked if we would please host again. I felt it would be the same request. And they needed action taken. I did agree. So I have agreed to the MOU. I am asking the board, the city of Caldwell has also approved the MOU. And so I'm asking you to ratify that. So the City of Caldwell fireworks display will be located. It would be located right there in that field by on the side of the football.
field?
Yes.
Right, so.
Right, and that area will be roped off, so there should be no traffic. The Caldwell High School football stadium will be closed 3rd and 4th, so there's no one can be in there. Police and fire will have a command post over by the tennis courts, so there won't be parking over by tennis courts, and we will shut off that driveway from Georgia that goes back behind the high school,
No.
goes to out to Indiana, so that will be closed. That will just, police will monitor that, and fire will be there. So it's so I'm asking you to please ratify that MOU.
Any questions for Dr. French?
You do get in free. You just have to find a seat over at Brothers Park.
And pay for parking.
Yeah, that's right. You might want to walk.
They have to pay for parking.
I think clubs make money off of it. Or myself.
I guess I was parked in the neighborhoods and walk over.
Manny's Corvette.
Oh, that's why. Okay. All right, thank you, Dr. French. Do we have a motion to approve the MOU with the city of Caldwell?
Chairman Manning, I would like to make a motion to approve, ratify the 4th of July MOU with the city of Caldwell.
Motion by trustee Stina.
Okay.
Second, trustee Godina. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Nay. Motion carries. Thank you. The Caldwell High School main gym, Dr. French.
Yes, Chairman Manning, trustees, so the school maintenance fund, there was, some additional dollars that were provided to schools, which was great. So we had the 20 million plus for our school maintenance. As you know, in our last board meeting, we talked about the high school main gym bleachers and the curtain. And Chairman Manning asked if that is a possibility to have, what would that cost? And is it possible to start a project? Would the board consider starting that project and having the bleachers replaced and the curtain replaced? Mrs. Sanderson could speak to this. It is an approved project. It could be an approved project. Did you want to share any more about that? Oh, you'll need the mic. You've got to push.
It's green.
Make it green. There you
Make
go.
it green. Make it green. Chairman Manning, trustees. Just briefly, with the final allocation of the modernization fund, we did receive an additional $2 million, a little bit over. This week, those were additional proceeds from the bond sales. But to address the high school gymnasium bleachers and curtain, because that facility is not dedicated 100% to athletics, we use it for PE classes, we use it for assemblies, a great deal of education. Plus, it's within the footprint of the student occupied, that we do believe it is a qualifying project to use those monies. We would like to go to bid. We do estimate that the bleachers will be between $400,000 and $500,000, so it does meet the threshold for needing that. We're receiving quotes or estimates for the curtains, so that we can in fact divide the gymnasium into partitions also. So once we wish to proceed, we will bring it back to the board. But I think that we probably will not, just for the need to go to bid, to be able to get it started for this summer. The hope would be to receive quotes and shoot for possibly Christmas, right? Something of that nature. But
Yeah, Chairman Manning and trustees, what we did learn from Bernie, as he researched this, that we need, the bleachers would have to be ordered, and so there is a delay in receiving that equipment. Yes, and it would be wise to place an order prior to the cost of steel, that we do anticipate a cost of steel increase, those materials that are imported, especially steel. So we would ask that you allow us to go to bid. Just know that it is a few weeks out. I mean, how many weeks did we? It's a few months before those bleachers would even be the materials. Yeah, on site. Yeah. So it's a process of time, but we thought possibly maybe Christmas, the Ox Gym would have to be used for those kids who were practicing over the holidays.
Chairman Manning, Dr. French, so I don't remember, there's basketball about that time, right?
Right. You'd have to use the auxiliary gym
Okay.
while those bleachers were coming out, and it could be staged so that you're taking them out in sections. So there's the less disruption, but
Is there any more costs that are gonna be incurred to that, like the floors, anything else that might come up? I'm just
Yeah.
thinking like Travis here.
I think that's something we're not gonna know. I know that the bleachers and the conditions they currently are potentially causing damage to the floor
Yeah.
because of the way they're scratching. And so we'll have to factor that in also. Once it's removed.
Okay.
so
So
what we're
there's,
asking for is your approval to allow us to go to bid for these items. I just don't have a timeline when it'll be done.
okay.
You know, Chairman Manning. Okay.
Vice
you
Chair
know
Messina.
where we're getting our materials from? Is it in the state?
I do not know that. I know Bernie is in the process of researching. We're looking to see if other districts in the state have purchased them recently. We could piggyback off of that or a state contract. And then we would have more information. There's only a few providers in the country. So there's a combination of wood or plastic and metal. So, well, we should have more information.
We need to
Yeah.
hurry.
We should.
I will say, Chairman Manning, trustees, I did have opportunity to meet with school specialty representative and she shared the concern if you're wanting to order, do it now. Just because they don't know what their costs are, but there's not enough steel manufactured in the United States to meet their demands for school furniture.
Yeah.
So the bleachers, I would anticipate, we do want to act and go out for bid and see what we can lock something in at the price we were anticipating.
Questions from the trustees
Trustee Robertson said that she could crochet the nets if we needed to.
for the basketball hoops?
Yeah, for the separation of the,
Oh, the
yeah.
curtains, yeah. Wow. That would be a project. That would be massive.
Don't have anything else to do.
Any other questions from the trustees? Okay, I would take a motion at this time.
Chairman Manning, I move that we put out for bid as the Caldwell School District put out for bid for the CHS main gym bleachers and curtain.
Trustee Robertson with the motion, we have a second.
Second.
Close tie, second by trustee Godina and a third by trustee Pacina,
Mhm.
the other Godina. Third by trustee Godina. Any further discussion?
You had a long day.
I have, it's been good. All those in favor, please say aye.
I,
Any opposed, nay? Okay, motion carries. Get this party started. Okay, the next item on the agenda is the Syringa HVAC project. Dr. French.
Yep, thank you, Chairman Manning, trustees. We are asking the board to approve our request to go out for bid for the Syringa Middle School HVAC upgrades. This would be an improvement at the school. It would also include replacing windows, some outside doors. Ms. Sanderson, was there anything else on this?
No, that's correct. This is our number one project on our facility. It is substantial, as we know. It's going to be, we're hoping we can save $5 to $6 million. But it's also very important because we've seen this, ordered and so that we can do a phased installation approach. We'll work with the, certainly the building administration to do classrooms in a section to phase in. So the sooner that we can get this out, working with our architects and engineers to get it up close and start this project as well. This does certainly meet all the requirements for the modernization.
Any other questions, comments from the trustees? So do we approve the boiler for the Syringa? Was that?
Chairman Manning, trustees, the boiler, this would be a replacement of that. So this will be a
so it's
new
the same
system.
project?
Yeah, this is replacing a heat and air. The boiler's gonna stay in that room down there because we can't take it out, but it will, we're going to.
sell it for steel.
Steel,
Yeah.
Steel.
Yeah, maybe we could trade in the steel.
Recycle the steel.
We got a deal for you.
I don't know how you do that safely, but anyway, this would be replacing that. So it would be set up on a different system. Heat and air would be a different, it would be. System. Yes, thank you. It is. It would be a completely.
So
different system.
would they remove the boiler, like
Oh,
cut
we-
it out, or
Mm-mm.
they would just leave it?
I can't I don't know.
Welding
I
pipe, cut it small
leave the
pieces.
boiler, we just leave the boiler.
Just the continuation of the project that we've been working on for the last couple of years, and acquiring and, trying to work through the building. We're at a high risk for failure. So I think that's why this project is moved up as well.
So we have replaced HVAC in the gym. We placed HVAC in the orchestra choir area. So now we just need to move down the
Down the
around.
hallways.
So every room is,
We could do tours of the old boiler.
oh, it's something.
Yeah, so the one at Lincoln.
But that's what we're asking is for allow us to go out for bid to start the process.
Any further questions from the trustees?
Chairman Manning, I'd like to make a motion to, the Syringa HVAC project as presented.
Motion by Vice Chair Pacino,
Second.
Trustee Robertson, second. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed, nay. Motion carries. Okay, UHS, or IHSA regulations, football camps, Dr. French.
Yes, Chairman Manning and trustees, this was brought by Mr. Halleck, the request to allow the use of the Caldwell football equipment for camps, which is required by the board every year when they hold their summer camps, if they want to use the equipment.
Okay, any questions from the trustees? I would take a motion this time.
Chairman Manning, I'd like to request approval for, the football camp, what do you call it?
It's like equipment.
For the use of the equipment during our CHS football camps.
Okay, motion by trustee Pacino. Do we have a second?
Second.
Trustee Godina with a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, we are going to move into executive session. The board will at this time, so I will take a motion to move into executive session.
Okay, Chairman Manning, I would like to make a motion to enter into executive session per Idaho Code 74-206, subsection 1, subsection B, to consider the evaluation, dismissal, or disciplining of, or to hear complaints or charges brought against a public officer, employee, staff member, individual agent, or public school student.
Okay, Ms. Watts, can you please call the roll?
Do we need a second?
We do need a second.
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 Trustee Godina with a second. Thank you. Ms. Watts, can you call the roll?
Trustee Trish Robertson,
Yes.
Vice Chair Marisela Pacina,
Yes.
Chairman Travis Manning,
Yes.
Trustee Manuel Godina,
Yes.
and Trustee Andrew Butler.
We are in executive session.